Hi, I'm Rebecca Jones of Dysart & Jones, and welcome to the Nextra Chat and SLA Canada Chat channel. Today, I just wanted to find out a bit more actually about TikTok, because I haven't experienced it. I know I've read all about it, but I haven't experienced it, and I really didn't understand why it's being banned in countries and what's going on with it. So I turned to the expert of the web, Gary Price. Gary Price is with us once a quarter. And but he's just passionate about the web, and he's also passionate about privacy. So I asked him, and we're not professional podcasters or videocasters, but you'll get some great information here. You'll not only find out about TikTok, you'll find out about how to protect your privacy. Cheap, free, easy. Listen up.
So let's go back a couple of years. TikTok starts, and all of a sudden it starts to get all of this attention. But remember,
when did it actually start? Like 12 months ago?
It's been around before that, because let me show you.
Oh.
And they've also run into trouble. So here we go. TikTok starts, and their company is known. It's known as Musical.ly.
Oh.
And so let's go back. So this was on February of 2019.
Okay.
On February 27th, 2019, they had already been fined $5.7 million because the company illegally collected personal information from children.
Children.
This is the largest private civil penalty ever obtained by the Federal Trade Commission. So they're Musical.ly known as TikTok. Now the company then changed their name to ByteDance. The issue here, though, really boils down to countries have issues with China, and this is a Chinese-based and owned company. They've already been banned in recent weeks in India, for example. So I think it's a combination of both privacy, safety of users, and other political issues that countries have with China. I will say, and with TikTok specifically, my issue is that look at all the data people are giving to this company and perhaps to the government of China. I mean, remember, even though you might not be sharing, you're not saying I'm standing in front of X or I'm going to Y, that data is likely included because the company knows the IP address you're part of.
Right.
There are also, and I learn about this every day, and I continue to be blown away, with all sorts of tracking from third parties and the company itself built into apps that unless you had the awareness that this is going on, you would never know. And blocking it is very possible, and I'd be happy to show you what I'm now using to block things, whether it be TikTok or any other company.
Oh.
But I think the real issue here is that people are giving up their faces, often because this is video. They're giving up their faces, they're giving up their interests, they're giving all this information to a company based in China. That's where the issue comes in. And it really then boils down to the fact, are you comfortable using this and potentially giving your data to the government of China?
Right.
That's really what it boils down to. And the only way to avoid not doing that, specifically with TikTok, obviously, is by not using it. That's the issue.
Right.
And I think really, as I was thinking about our conversation today, for me, the most interesting part about this is not the privacy angle, but is the fact, turn this off here, but is the fact that once you get people so baked into what they're doing, getting them to stop doing it is almost impossible or extremely difficult. You know, you love TikTok, you love sharing the videos, blah, 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 even though it might not be good. And again, this doesn't just apply to TikTok. But people get so baked in and so enamored with what they're using and their work pattern and their sharing pattern, blah, blah, blah. They're trying to get somebody to stop doing something. You know what? It's like stopping smoking. People, I think everybody, you know, you get hooked. I think that's the word I'm looking for. You get hooked into it, and trying to get you to stop is very, very difficult, even though in this case you might be sharing data and other information with the government or whomever, or knowing that if you smoke too much, you very likely could die of lung cancer or another type of cancer.
Do you know, or is there a place to check, like who are the major users? Are they really between the ages of like 14 and 18?
All of the data that I've seen is it's primarily the younger crowd. And that's, that's something that we've seen too, they move from one service to another.
Right.
This one though, the growth of this one over such a short period of time is really amazing. And, another example that I was thinking of that relates to, people get so hooked into it. Now, this is an example of not even taking the time to learn about the privacy issues with the app or the service. And that one is, let's see if I can get it here. We continue to look, we can edit this out, here we go. I'll share the screen. And by the way, once they have the data, that's it. I mean,
right, they have the data.
They can use that data, and even though they might not be using it now, they could use it at a different time.
At any time.
And I think another issue is that because there's faces available here, a lot of times, obviously, people are showing themselves and their friends. Well, now they can be using that in the future for facial recognition technology and being able to actually identify the person, which really, I mean, obviously, Facebook is able to do the same thing too. All of those pictures that you share on Facebook or other social media services, even though they might not be tagged with the person's name, they can pretty much figure out who that person is, where you were at that given moment in time, and then from there on, go all over the place.
Right.
The other example that I wanted to mention, and this again is not a new example, and this one can be easily solved, but I wonder what percentage of people don't realize with another popular app, especially with younger people, Venmo, the app that allows you to track, the app that allows you to share money between different parties.
Right.
But the thing about Venmo is, let me see if I'll continue to click here. Venmo's API, their application programming interface, is public unless you manually go into the app and turn it off.
Wow.
So basically, you can find out, and here you go. This is what it looks like in real time. This is the actual API of Venmo as we speak. But you can actually see what it looks like. And all of these transactions are public. So the point of the matter is here. I'm not sure if this one is actually live, but the point of this is, and it's probably good that it's not live, but the point is somebody is taking all of this data, it's all free, and you can see, well, I paid Rebecca $25 on this date. And a lot of times people will tag their payments with what they were paying for. So, you can actually track who paid who for their, for their drugs, that kind of thing.
Right.
So again, people don't even take so step one is understanding what's going on in the big picture. Step two is not even understanding what's going on and perhaps deciding to turn this off. I mean, again, every time you open that app, they know, unless you change it, they know where you very likely are standing. They know where you're standing at that given moment in time.
Wow.
So we don't do enough. My point has always been, when I talk about privacy, is yes, there needs to be government and private people making decisions, standards, all of that. But for me, it really boils down to doing the right thing and making a personal decision if I'm going to use X or Y or not, or use it or not use it. And then if I am going to use it, because if somebody wants to track your information, they're not NSA, so they're going to be able to do it. However, my point has always been, here we go. My point has always been that there are things that you can do to increase the roadblocks, if you like, to make as much data as you might be churning out, you can reduce the amount.
Okay.
So there's lots of different methods of blocking things. I have found, and I have no relationship to this company, but I have found that this French-based service called NextDNS
Oh.
really works well. One, you don't really load anything on your computer, or minimal material on your computer. And what they're doing, I'll show you here, is that they are blocking the connection. When you open your iPhone app, or whether you go to a website, all of these trackers and cookies and all these other things are going on. These services don't even allow those sites to connect. They're blocking this at a certain level before the connection is even made using what's called DNS. Yeah. DNS converts the letters, the dysartjones.com to a number pattern. These tools, like NextDNS, blocks it on their servers before you even connect to it. So the data can't transmit from one person or one organization to you back and forth. I have found this to be great, and it's also a wonderful for you and others who do some training. What's great about this is that it allows you to actually use this as even if you don't want to block things, using this as a learning tool can be really very useful. So you can see that, for example, on the different tools I'm using, all the different sites that I'm hitting. Some of these I've never seen before because they're third parties that have arrangements with different websites. And every time there's a red thing here, you can see that it's being blocked.
Oh, I see. So say, for instance, Slack, which I have to use for work.
Right.
It wouldn't block it.
Right, and obviously you can customize this to your specific needs.
Okay.
This is an example. Over the last 30 days, I have made 184,744 DNS queries. Of those amounts, of those queries, of that amount, I have blocked 21% of them.
Right.
And what's also interesting is you can see the domains that are being blocked. Like AppTentive is a company that does metrics about how well an app is functioning. Often these are companies you've never heard of before, and they're getting your data. And they can share it with somebody else. So what's nice about this, you get all these nice...
so I saw it down there. It says blocked reasons. There, blocked reasons.
By blocked reasons, and I'll get to this in a second, this tells you what blocking list they're using to block it. And I'll show you what they look like in a moment. It shows you the IPs that I'm running this on. Now, what's interesting here is, of all the domains I've blocked, they call it GAFAM. Google, Amazon, Facebook, Apple, and Microsoft.
Oh.
You can see, and it makes sense because I'm often going to my iPhone, 35,000 of them, 19.2% are from Apple. Yeah. Next, look at the difference. Apple gets 19.2, not far behind is Google with 17.8, and then everything else drops off. I'm not a big Facebook user.
No.
But you can see that Google and Apple, I know. I'm a big Apple user. Obviously, if you don't use Apple, you're not going to connect. But Google has such a dominance in my world, and I'm blocking 17.8% of those queries. I'm not blocking, but yes, I am blocking them, but 17.8% of those queries are to Google.
Okay.
What did I mean a moment ago by blocking lists? So this, and again, this is one way of doing it. I want to make that really clear.
Sure.
There are other ways of blocking that are actually, and the tools are actually located on your computer. And to be quite honest with you, if you're very interested in this, you probably might want to do it in both places. Well, what's nice about this, they let you block, I think, up to 300,000 a month for free, and then it's $199 US a month.
Okay.
But what I want to show you here is under privacy. These are different block lists. These are different lists that different groups of people have put together that block specific domains, parts of domains, et cetera, et cetera. So let's take a look at one of these. So easy privacy is a big one, and there are 6,920 entries in it. If I click on it, let's see if we see it here. So it gives you a little bit more, information, and this is what EasyList actually looks like. So anytime a URL, for example, has and ad slots equal, it's blocked. Every time it has any of these things in the URL, those sites are actually blocked. And obviously you can see the names of these: ads.html, ads.html, ads_billboard, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
Google ads. So this is a way of not sending as much data about you or what you're doing online to these companies, whether it be Google, Apple, Facebook, and all these third-party companies out there.
Right.
And what the biggest revelation that I've had since using this is the amount of tracking that goes on with iOS apps. The amount of companies you've never heard of that are getting data every time you open the app. It's really amazing. And I'm always, and by the way, in addition to those lists, then you can go in there and add in your own things that you might want to block, or as we said a moment ago, unblock.
Right. Right.
The amount of data that we're sharing about ourselves is truly amazing.
Mind-boggling, isn't it?
It is, and most people don't realize how much data is being shared about them, even when they go to the most mundane website. And what makes this so important, what gets by a lot of people, and you and I have talked about this before, is not that, well, you know, the Toronto Star knows that I'm standing at this particular corner when I look on my iPhone at this article, but is the idea that with very little effort now, companies can take all of these disparate data points, merge them all together. Heck, I don't think they do this in Canada, and I'm not even sure Google is doing this anymore in the United States. I think they are. Is that they can even tie in your credit card purchases to what you're browsing.
Right.
So when you think about all the different places you look and all of your digital trails that you're leaving, the ability to merge all of that data together, they pretty much know just about everything about you. And I mean, it even goes to your cable TV provider. You know, if you're running your cable TV through a cable box, like most people, remember when we were younger, you would have to have a TV diary to fill out to tell them what you're watching. Well, there's no need for that anymore because the box is capturing all the data down to, I watched this particular program for 6 minutes and 21 seconds, and then I flipped for 31 seconds and I stopped at this. And then they can actually tie it to what was on that program at that exact moment. So it's scary. And I really, my point has always been, there are things that you can do, but I don't even know how you can remain, short of moving to, Montana or, the Yukon territory. I don't really know how you, because the point that I've made before is, I mentioned earlier with the facial recognition. So hypothetically, you're sitting back in the day when we could sit in restaurants, you were sitting in a restaurant and you didn't have a mask on. I guess masks throw a whole new perspective into facial recognition. But be that as it may, you're sitting in a restaurant and you with 3 of your friends and you put your arms around each other and another person takes the picture. But behind you, there's another person who you don't know, but they're standing there and their face gets in the picture.
Right.
That face can, if that person has ever been tagged on Facebook or perhaps on TikTok or Snapchat, that face has been matched with a name and go from there. So even if you're offline, not using these tools, you still could be recognized.
Wow.
And it goes on and on from there. But my point has always been that there are things that you can do to minimize your digital trail, to reduce, I wouldn't say minimize, to reduce your digital trails online. And one, not use the app or the program. Like TikTok, use it, don't use it. But also consider blocking, consider changing your IP address. That's confusing. You could use a VPN and say, well, I'm actually I'm not in Toronto right now. I'm actually in Vancouver. I'm actually in Rio de Janeiro. You can do those things.
Right.
But again, you also have to give up that anybody who says that they can guarantee your anonymity online is lying to you.
I guess so. You're going to talk more about this in September too, aren't you?
Yeah, and probably it will all be different by then.
I warned you that we're not professional podcasters or videocasters. However, you did get some information, didn't you? And you'll get even more. September 10th, Gary Price will be back with us. He does a fabulous expose on the best sources, particularly for Canadians. He has a real soft spot for Canadians. So we'll see you September 10th. You want to register for it, just go to dysartjones.com. dysartjones.com. See you there. Bye.